Yeah, what's good, everybody? I want to thank you for tuning in to another Tyler Perry Sistas review, season 3, episode 2, entitled Acting Normal, which nobody did. Um, so I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the new subscribers. I appreciate you guys. I thank you for all the returning family members and the engagement. I really appreciate it. I want to go ahead and apologize because I feel like I'm losing my voice. So I hope that you guys can hear me clearly and that the sound really isn't affected by how I currently sound at the moment. I want to thank you guys for those who have subscribed to my Patreon. The link will be in the description box for those who haven't. Make sure you check it out because I did a live last night after the show. It was really good and I appreciate those who were there. So without further ado, here we go into this review. So the show opens up with Andy and Gary, and let me stop right there. Now I knew Tyler Perry was gonna pull some BS out of his ass by the way Andy looked at Gary at the end of episode 1. Rubber bullets, Tyler. Rubber bullets. Okay. So we're just supposed to act as if we all didn't see that fake computerized blood that came from Gary's body on the season finale. This is so Tyler Perry. So after Andy and she made sure he was okay, Gary stated that he was going to get his son, which I thought was odd as hell for him to say in that moment, which makes me believe that this was a scheme or a plan that Gary had derived a long time ago um, to rid himself of Jasmine without having to actually kill her. It appears that this was done to obtain custody. I could be wrong, but as the old people say, there is something in the milk that isn't clean. Now, this is why I don't trust Gary, will never trust Gary, don't like Gary, will never like Gary. So, I don't know if this is Tyler actually forgetting what he has written previously, or this is to show just how shady Gary is. I don't know which one. I think it's a little bit of both. But let's really dig into this thing. Now, Gary said he was going to get his son. Now, we know from season 1, he stated that the son was at Jasmine's mom's house. We know that Jasmine's mom lives in Albuquerque, which is in New Mexico. They're in Atlanta, which means he would have to have caught a flight to go to Albuquerque and pick up his son. Then he says that he was going to take his son to his mom's house. Now, also, we found out in season 1 that Gary's mom is deceased, which was a huge thing in season 1 because that was when Jasmine was trying to destroy his mom's ashes, and Gary ended up hitting her, which, okay, Alicia, don't promote violence. But I would have did the same thing. That was I understood the totality of that. That's all he had left of his mom. Something that was physical, and she was trying to destroy it. So I'm like, okay, Jasmine mom is in Albuquerque. You say you're taking the son to your mom's house. Your mom is dead. Andy said she wanted to go with him. He was like, no, because, her side of the family is crazy. Her whole family is crazy. I said, well, let's go back to season 1 as well. When Danny saw Gary at the airport with another woman, which we found out later on was actually Jasmine's sister. She wasn't acting crazy. Matter of fact, they were too close for comfort, in my opinion. But that's what it was. I'm like, this whole thing does not make sense. So when he got up, Andy just appeared like I believe like deep down inside, she knows that something is not right with Gary. But I think Andy wants to be right so much that she is willing to just deal with the stupidity of it all, because that's all I see with that entire situation. So let's deal with Karen and Aaron. So it's the next morning. Aaron has sobered up but has a hangover. He and Karen briefly talk, and Aaron is very honest with his words. He told Karen that he wanted to make love to her. He wanted to show her that he was better than Zach. He wanted to show her that he could be everything that she wanted in the bedroom and everywhere else. I said, damn. I probably would have gave in. I ain't gonna lie. I probably would have gave in right then and there because There is something that is so beautiful when a man expresses himself with such honesty and vulnerability like that. I don't know if I would have made. I probably just would have just gave it all up. Then he says the thing that just got me. It just got me. He said, "I honestly just wanted to make you forget how you feel when he's inside of you." I said, "My God, listen." Clothes would have been off while I was simultaneously calling Pam. I would have been like, Pam, sis, clear my calendar. I'm not coming in today. Tell them I'm sorry. I don't really care what you tell them. I won't be in today. I would have probably let Aaron fine, okay? Aaron is fine, and I don't know if I could have been that strong, but that's why we in this situation in the first place, because Karen wasn't able to, muster up enough strength to deny Zach her goodies. So that's why we in the situation. So Karen tells Zach that Karen tells Aaron that she needs to get to work. But before we get there, he was just like, he is so in your head talking about Zach. And she says, he's in my heart. And I'm like, what does that mean? Because Aaron was like, I know. And sometimes, like with shows, not just with Sistas, but with shows, I'm like, when the character says something, sometimes we are in the dark as the audience. Let them explain to us what they mean. Because when she said he's in my heart, and Aaron was like, I know. I'm like, well, what does that mean? We don't really get complete narratives from characters to say he's in my heart. But even though he's in my heart, I know he's no good for me, or he's in my heart. And as crazy as it sounds, I want to see what's still there between us. Like, it's never a completed thought when it comes to this toxic square that I have named it. And I really wanted to know what that meant to Karen. But we don't know because, Aaron was kind of like, I know. So we don't know what the hell she was really referring to when she said, he's in my heart. We already know that she loves him. That was always there. So that's not a shock. But it's like, what does that mean in the now? So I don't know. So, they get up and Karen asked him, could they talk about it later? And he basically said no, which I don't blame him. And I was so happy he said that, because at this point, what do they really have to talk about? I don't know. And I'm glad he said no. And he was like, I'm just giving you your space. I'm going to give you time, which, I feel like they both need it. I just want him to distance himself from Karen as much as I love them together. And, she kind of had, when he walked out the door, she kind of had this look. I don't know if it was a look of regret, a look that she was hurt, that he really didn't even want to discuss anything with her. I'm really not sure what that look meant, but I really would to have known what Karen felt in that moment. And maybe we'll get to find that out a little later. So I'm moving kind of fast because there's some stuff I want to talk about toward the end of it. And I honestly, this wasn't my favorite episode. I just think it was a lot going on. So Sabrina, Danny, and Preston. Sabrina stopped by Danny's, but before that, Danny and Preston are having a brief conversation, and he tells her that she looks beautiful in the morning, and she was blushing, which I thought was so cute. He asked her what her plans were for the day other than work, and at the time, she stated that that's all that she had planned. And he was stating that he needed to go see his mom. His mom doesn't play, and Danny was a little on the defensive for a moment. She asked him, was his ma and him Billy's gonna be at her house? And then I think that even though Danny expressed it that way, honestly, I thought she was just really concerned as to why Preston was asking about her whereabouts. And he stated that he was going to miss her and he wasn't up to anything. Then there's a knock on the door. Danny thinks it's the landlord coming about the rent, which we know that Preston has paid 3 months of rent, I believe it was. And so Danny hides as Preston goes to the door, and we see that it's Sabrina. Now, so many people was talking about my dog dress, but I like the dress. And those colors, don't get me wrong. Sabrina's fashion sense has definitely been in question. But I thought the dress was really cute. And those colors against Novi's beautiful, flawless skin was absolutely perfect to me. Side note, if you don't follow Novi Brown, aka Sabrina, on social media, do yourself a favor and follow her. She is nothing like Sabrina. She's cool as hell, down to earth, encouraging. If you are someone who is interested in the study of astrology and the astrological signs and all of that, she is your person. She smokes herb, and I love her relationship with Ebony, aka Karen. Now back to the show. Sabrina needs advice on how she should handle things with Jacoby, which is the main reason why she's at Danny's house. She doesn't know what to do. Danny asked her, did she enjoy her time with him? And she was like, yeah, I enjoyed. I'm not gonna lie, like, what we were able to do. And she, referred to Jacoby as Mandingo to Danny. And then it was like, I need to stop by the bank. And Sabrina was like, why? And she was like, well, it's obvious that you don't want him. I says, Danny, stop. But you know what? Okay. I got a theory about this. Not. I have shared certain things with my friends as it pertains to men. The one thing that I have never done, I may say like, yeah, it was good or I enjoy. I don't give details. And you got to watch the people in your circle. You got to watch your associates, because you have some women out there that when you tell them your business about a man you done been with, they want to test your theory, sis. So they want to find out if what you're saying is actually true, and then they want to try it out for themselves. That's just the public service announcement. Don't be telling everybody what go on in your bedroom or who you're, have in your bedroom, because some people are trifling as hell. Okay? I was trifling before. I didn't go that deep, but I'm just saying the way the mind works. Stop telling people your sexual business. I don't know why. Okay, I don't know who's supposed to be hearing that, but that was a word for you, sis. So anyway, Danny tells Sabrina to just ignore him. Like, you don't have to be around him. You don't have to be under him. Just ignore him. I personally wouldn't have done that, or that wouldn't have been the advice that I would have gave. But, okay, I do get it. So there are many of us, and I said us because I do have a story, but I'm not going to share it right now. When you make the decision to cross the line with a coworker, there's a certain way you have to handle your business, because I believe that what you do in the confines of the building that you work in, that's work and that's business. What you do in your bedroom with the coworker, that's household business. Don't bring household business to professional business, and everybody can't do that. And we see that Sabrina is one of those people. When Danny called her remedial and that she was messing up her meditation, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know what that was. I was like, wow, that is really interesting. I laughed because it was funny, because it's sometimes like talking to Sabrina is like talking to a brick wall. You're wondering why you doing it. That's exactly how it is. But so back at the bank, I can't think of this dude. I can't think of dude's name. So dude comes in the bank who was having sex in Calvin's room. His name escapes me. It's really not even that important. He comes up with a $5,000 check from Calvin. Maurice instantly knows something is up with this when he puts in the information. Dude said he worked for Calvin, but could not describe what Calvin looked like physically. Maurice ended up locking the bank's doors and told the guy that he was going to call the police because it was fraud. It was a stolen check. So he didn't do either. He didn't call the police or anything. So Jacoby comes in and unknowingly lets the guy escape. Now, I don't understand why Maurice didn't alert Calvin about his checkbook being stolen. Like, to me, that should have been an immediate call. He waited until Calvin's account had been depleted of funds. Then he calls and alerts him, telling him he needs to come to the bank in person because Sabrina is the only one who could reverse the payment. Now, I wasn't finna go back and forth with this, but, Maurice was, inquiring about, Jacoby's penis size, his girth. And I'm just like, that is such an uncomfortable conversation. And that's really none of your business. That's why I say I ain't got nothing to say about that. That just wasn't none of his business. So when Sabrina comes in, Maurice says good morning, and she responds. She didn't say anything to Jacoby. And he was like, good morning, Sabrina. And she didn't say anything. She just went in her office, and that's just what it was. I'm like, well, my God, Sabrina. See, when you do things out of the ordinary, that's when you begin to look suspicious. Her and Jacoby always seem to have a great rapport at work, and now you're not speaking to him, you're not saying anything, you acting funny. People gonna already know because it's you, sis. You changing up, you doing what you ain't supposed to do. Now, Andy, Gary, and I'm gonna throw Karen in there to try to finish this one up. So Gary brings an unknown man to the house. You know, when you when it's you and your woman or you and your man, whatever, and you're bringing someone to your house, what is wrong with these people calling or texting? I've never seen a group of people who just bring strangers to somebody's house. It's such a, it must be a sister culture thing because I don't get that. But he brings this guy who happens to be a professional photographer. They came up with this lame excuse that one of his models was unavailable and he needed Andy's help to finish his photo shoot. That would have been a red flag to me because one, Andy ain't no damn model. Andy is a respectable divorce lawyer in Atlanta. The crazy part was this literally was the day after Gary and Andy had been assaulted by Jasmine. So I'm like, even obviously we know that Gary had set this up. It's like, dude, nothing about last night shook you to the point to where maybe, hey, we had a rough night. How about we reschedule? It was nothing like that. And so to me, this just furthermore displays Gary's controlled nature. Like, and even in the upcoming preview, we see that this is like a wedding photo shoot. He has the dress, he has the dress for the girls. And I'm like, that's supposed to be a really special time when the woman goes to pick out her dress, her bridesmaid dresses. It's an event. It's a huge thing. And he already went and just took care of everything. And it is baffling. You don't want Andy to meet your son, yet you are moving forward with this whole marriage thing or whatever is going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Next week, which is very odd. Something ain't right with Gary, y'all. Something is just not right with him. Long story short, she agreed to do the photo shoot. So back to her wanting to meet his son. He uses the excuse of his son's autism as to why he didn't think it was a good idea for her to meet him. And he was like, because his mom isn't there, and I said, what? I'm not a parent of an autism child, but I do have family members who have autism children, and I'm around autistic children, and I'm just like, you didn't even want her to meet. Like, nothing about that made sense. And Andy he was like, you understand, right? Yeah. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't understand. Because just as dumb as it sounds to us, we know it sounds dumb to you, but you just going to go along with it because you want to be so right about Gary. And I think that with Andy, even though the storyline is just completely dull to me, it's like this woman, she wants this image of this perfect life, like, the American dream, quote unquote. You want the man, he has a good job, he's able to take care of you if need be. You want the children, like, you want all of this to fit into your perfect puzzle that you created with Gary. And Gary has all this baggage that's going to come into this situation. And my thing is this, where are the other kids? Because Gary has more than one child. So who's taking care of the other children? And then back to the first scene when he stated that he put the rubber bullets in Jasmine's gun because he felt at some point that she was going to either try to hurt herself or him. Then he made the statement, he said, when I was living with her. I'm like, when the last time you was living with her, Gary? So she's had a gun full of rubber bullets all of this time. It's very hard for me to believe that, like, this particular storyline is getting weird and more weird by the episode. So Andy goes to see Karen, and for me, this scene was kind of, I don't want to say hard or difficult to watch, but there was something going on between Andy and Karen that was very awkward, with a hint of them being a little uncomfortable. It was like they were trying to feel each other out. Like, I'm trying to see like where she is, where she stand, because Andy stated that Gary bought this famous photographer, or this well-known photographer, she said, to our home. And Karen was like, to your home, like to your, which, because she doesn't know that they're living together now. And Andy, going back for a moment, with Gary, he asked, "Did you tell the girls?" And she was like, "No, I'm learning not to tell them everything. You taught me that." I said, "This woman is about as dumb as a box of rocks." I just don't get it. I don't. I'm like, what? I do agree to a certain extent. Your friends do not need to know all your business. I do get that, but I'm just like, sis. At some point, you're not even blind anymore. You're just choosing to ignore that woman's intuition that I can see on your face is coming through, but you're trying to silence that voice. You're trying to ignore the signs because Andy, you are seeing them. You just don't want to, I don't know what you want to do. You just like toxicity, I guess. Um, so Karen asked Andy if she want to go get a drink, and that's she talked about the photo shoot or what have you. But she did tell Karen that Fatima is a good person, which I believe Karen knows that. She's just choosing to act emotionally immature right now. And don't get me wrong. I don't want to make it seem like there is no difficulty in truly closing the chapter on a situation. It could be a relationship, a job, it could be a platonic situation. But when things have come to an end, let it end. Because you can't get to the next part of your story, the next part of the book, the next part of your journey, if you keep getting to a certain place in the chapter and you stop and you go back. You'll never complete it. You'll just be stuck at chapter 2, page 89, and chapter 3 is on page 90, but you won't turn the page to see what happens next. And that's how I kind of see, Karen in this situation. So when Andy gets to work, she sees Fatima. They go talk in her office. I absolutely cannot stand how Andy speaks to Fatima. It's been going on since season 1. I do understand that Fatima is her subordinate, but at the same time, you don't have to talk to this woman like this. Like, I don't even understand that. And then after a while, Andy will soften her tone, and it seems like she's cool, they're cool. But to me, it comes off as fake. Like, she stated to the girls that Fatima was her ride or die. And that's even how I see Fatima with Zach. Everybody says, not everybody, let me not say that. So many people state that Fatima is so good for him. Fatima encourage him. Fatima does this for him. But I'm like, but what the hell do these people do for Fatima? So even with her dynamic with Andy, her dynamic with Zach, to me, she still gets the short end of the stick because she does so much and she's not giving that same thing in return. So I'm like, when somebody could tell me what these other people do for Fatima, then that could be a conversation. But until now, all I see is Fatima giving and giving and giving, and she's not giving much in return. But Fatima does not owe anyone an apology about being sexually involved with the man. She just happened to be sexually involved with the man who the women know. That's just what it is. I don't feel like she should be apologizing to anyone every scene. Like, no. I don't see a need for that at all. Now, this one thing I hate with the passion. I don't know where Tyler is going with this particular narrative, but I don't like it. I do not like the narrative that Karen is a reflection or representation of Zach's mom. Fatima made the statement that when men aren't told how great they are or how great they could be by their mother, then they go out and get a woman like their mom. That was BS to me. Now, I'm not saying that is an untrue statement, but I don't believe that in this case it applies. It's almost like saying everything that Karen has endured with Zach, the cheating, the STD, the pregnancy scare, the living off of her, is completely null and void because Karen didn't do her job in elevating her man and being his damn mama. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I felt. And I don't want to belittle or disregard anyone who was raised in a toxic household with toxic parents. But at some point, I believe that it is unfair that a man who is 36 years old is not doing the adequate work to better himself and to still blame other people for his issues or problems. Some people may say, well, Zach is bettering himself. He has another job. He's making money. And I think that is great. But to me, making money does not correct your inadequacies in your character or in the way you live your life day to day. Money is great, but money doesn't fix those internal issues, and which I think all of them got internal issues, and they all need to be sitting on somebody's couch. I would really love to see somebody Be in therapy this season. Lord, just one. If I could just get one. They all need to be there, but Lord, just give us one, please, because we need to see that. Um, so Zach and Danny, they talk about the situation with Fatima and Karen. You know, Zach brought up the fact that you always like to talk about old stuff. And she was like, man, this was just last night. This was just the other day. This is not old. You know, you saying you moving on. You talk about this girl Fatima, yet somehow you and Karen, was, knocking shampoo off the shelves. That was hilarious. That was so funny. It was the truth though. But it's like, you ended up back in this situation, and she was like, because you and Karen gonna always be together. And he stated, no, we're not. I'm trying to move on, and I hope that she moves on too. And I'm just like, those are just words. Because Zach made it seem to Danny that he and Karen just effed. It was nothing to it, which we all know. He poured out his heart. I love you. I always love you. I did it. I love you. You do that to me. He did his normal Zach cry. And, well, not cry. He did his normal Zach cry voice, because we don't ever see tears. Um, but we know it's deeper than that to them both. It's just finding out, how do you effectively move on? How do you do that? And I do hope that that is written, because a lot of people find difficulty in that moment. And it made me think about, like, my ex, and we broke up, but we kept going back. It made me think about Calvin and Zach. Just to this point, we kept going back um to have sex. It was like this thing. We were both like, it's like that separation anxiety. You're so used to being with someone, and it's like letting the relationship part was over, but this physical aspect, we still craved each other in that way. But it was so odd, and it was funny. I was talking to my mom about this. I think last week or the week before. Yeah, me and my mom were very open. But I was talking to her about this, and I was like, the last time that we had sex, we didn't even have to verbalize, like, look, we can't do this anymore. It felt like the last time. We knew. It's like we had a silent knowing that this will never happen again. We will never do this again. We're not gonna see each other again. After that moment, I didn't see him for 10 years. Of course, on social media, but we hadn't spoken really, or we hadn't been in each other's presence until 10 years after that. And so it just felt like it. And I know it's hard, but I just want to see a depiction of, how do you move on effectively? How do you heal in a healthy way? How do I don't know. I'm happy for him. He's in a relationship. He's doing great. I'm happy for him. I don't know if that's everyone's story. I don't know if everyone is happy to see someone that they were once in love with do great without them. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But it really would be great to see. So Zach meets this woman, and, well, back to that. Danny asked him, did he love Fatima? And she was like, excuse me, he was like, I just met her. Like, no, I don't love her. And so Danny's response was, well, you like her a lot. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. But for me, when you are attempting to move on, the struggle to let what is familiar to you go, it is a challenge. However, it is possible. It is possible. And I know there may be people who are listening to this, and you may be in a situation that that's toxic, or that isn't good for you. And you deal with your own thoughts about, how do you leave, when do you leave, when the best time to go, because I know it's better for me out there. And it's all about just making that decision. And true, but how they tell you, leave scared. Do it scared. Do it with uncertainty. Do it with, you may not know what your next step is, but when you actually do it, you will know exactly what to do when you take that big leap. You know what I'm saying? So people don't have to stay in toxic situations. I don't care what these shows display. So Zach ended up meeting this woman who left her laptop on the plane. She's saying how badly she needs it, and he goes to go get the laptop. I think that's all that's happened in this episode. I don't remember. Like I said, it wasn't a favorite of mine. I just think it was all over the place. I think it was all over the place, and it was out. And I watched it twice, I believe. It. I don't know, y'all. I'm trying to keep the hope alive, but it's really challenging. And I know how Tyler does. He starts off slow the first couple episodes, then he started to gradually, increase with the drama or the revelations. And it's like, I'm just at a point like, dude, we are so knowing of how you do us all a favor and shock us and do something different. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't gonna get on Tyler too much. I ain't gonna give him too much. I'm not gonna do that. But I wanted to talk to y'all about Patreon because I had some people asking me about it. Patreon, if you've never heard of it, Patreon is a way that you can and it's another way to connect with a creator. You get behind the scenes stuff, you get extra stuff that people wouldn't normally get following them on social media. It is a monthly subscription. The least expensive one I have is $5 a month, and you get the same thing regardless of the tier. So, like I said, last night we had a live. It was funny. It got a little. I don't want to use the word heated the last couple minutes, but it got real interesting the last couple minutes. So, if you would like to be a part of that, click the link in my bio about Patreon. You can read up on it before you decide to um, join. But I do have each review will have a bonus video on Patreon, but that will only be for Patreons. It will not be anything that is released on YouTube. But I do want to thank you guys for, you know, supporting me and everything like that, and your messages and all of that good stuff. I really do appreciate it. Excuse me, I'm sorry, my voice. But I'm going to go ahead and go before I lose whatever voice I have left. So I thank you guys for listening. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if I left anything out. And what has been your opinion about this particular episode? Did you like it? What did it reveal to you? What did it show you? Did y'all remember the inadequacies or the contradictions with Gary speaking to Andy about his past and the fact that his mom is dead to us but alive to him? We don't know. So what were your initial thoughts when you kind of began to see the contradictions come out in this episode? So until next time, I will holler at y'all later, and y'all be safe out there.